If you're a first time mama like myself, there is so much about labor that we don't know, especially because this is our first time going through this. And so there's a lot of things that we don't know about labor, but should know before giving birth, because it'll help us be way more prepared for the process and the experience. And all these things are things that I have learned through my preparation for birth, from my midwives, from a lot of research, from a lot of preparation, and I want to share them with you today. And if you're new, I'm Naomi. I'm currently 41 weeks pregnant with a beautiful baby girl. So she could literally come at any point. But we'll go ahead and get into these things because, again, I know this will be super helpful. These are all things that have been really helpful for me knowing going into birth. And honestly, a lot of the things I had no idea were a thing. So let's get into it. I first want to start by saying that every labor experience is unique, and do not compare your experience to someone else's experience, because this can create a lot of stress, especially if they're different. For example, just to give you one of my examples that I've experienced, I remember early on in pregnancy asking different people, when they delivered, like, did they deliver at 39 weeks, 40 weeks, things like that. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll probably deliver around 39 or 40 weeks. And here I am 41 weeks pregnant. So if I got too caught up in their experience and not being just present in my own, then that would have led to a lot of disappointment and a lot of anticipation, me anticipating to deliver at 31 and 40 weeks, rather than just seeing my experience as my own and just being like, okay, well, I'm going to deliver whenever my baby's ready. And so that's just an example, but don't get caught up in comparing your experience to someone else's experience. I wanted to start off with that one, so we'll go ahead and get into the next one. The next thing to know about labor before you give birth is the different stages of labor and what to expect in each. Now, when you research this, you are going to find a lot of different stages of labor, but honestly, all of them are important to know about. Every source has something different. Like, some have like early labor as a stage, active labor as a stage, and then like actual delivery of the baby. Some have like dilation or contractions, then dilation, delivery of the baby, delivery of the placenta. But all of these, no matter how many are included in each source, they're all stages of labor. So be familiar with all of them, because it's really going to help you going into birth so that you're prepared for how everything is progressing and also what to expect in each stage of that. The next thing to know about labor before you give birth is the difference between active labor and false labor. And false labor can be really annoying, especially when you think that, oh, it's time, and then you find out quickly that it's not. So the main difference, just to sum it up, between active and false labor. So active labor are going to be real contractions. So they're really strong. They typically start in the back, come to the front. They normally stop you in your tracks. They get stronger over time. They have a pattern to them. But with false labor, which are known as like practice contractions, or like also known as Braxton Hicks contractions, sometimes they're not felt at all. Like, for example, my Braxton Hicks contractions, I sometimes don't even notice that I'm having them. And they're also very irregular. They don't have a pattern to them. They don't get stronger. Typically, they go away as you move around, as you drink more water. So just understanding the difference between that will really help you when it comes time and you're actually starting like, oh, that's a contraction. And then you can tell, like, okay, is this in a pattern or is it irregular? Does it go away as I move? So that way you know if you're in active labor or false labor. And this leads me to my next point, which is knowing how to time your contractions. So when you are in active labor, or if you think you're in active labor, it's going to be a good idea to start timing your contractions. How far apart are they? And also, how long are they lasting? And then maybe even note just the intensity of them. Does it go away as you move around? Are they lasting for maybe a minute, over like an hour? And typically, like, for example, in my case with my midwives, they say, hey, call us when it hits 411. So lasting for, happening every 4 minutes for at least 1 minute for an hour. And so that's the metric that they gave me to know, like, hey, go ahead and call us, because, things are are happening and moving. So, but knowing how to keep track of that, you can keep track of it like in an app, or if you just, honestly, I've been keeping track of mine just in a note on my phone. Like I'll put the time between them, how long they last. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but just knowing how to time them and actually timing them will help you to know if you're getting closer to active labor, if you're already in active labor, or if they're just completely irregular and it's false labor. The next thing to know about labor before you give birth is that your water does not always break. And this is one thing that caught me off guard, because I thought every woman's water broke to send her into labor, but that's not the case for some women. And if you knew this already, props to you, but I just found this so like new. This was new information for me, especially as a first-time mama. And if you're watching this too, I'm sure you're a first-time mama. But your water does not always break. And so some women, their water does not break until they are actually pushing the baby out. Also with your water breaking, sometimes it's not always a big gush like, you know, the movies and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just a trickle of fluid and you're like, oh, that felt like I peed on myself. Did I pee on myself, or was that my water breaking? So that is a big thing to know before you go into labor, because, or to know about labor before you give birth, because that way you'll know that, okay, I'm having contractions and that's sending me into active labor, but my water didn't break. Am I in active labor? Yes, you can be in active labor having contractions without your water breaking. The next thing to know about labor before you give birth is that if you show up too early, you could be sent home. So just want to put that out there so that you're not discouraged, because oftentimes mamas, they go in thinking that they're in active labor, that it's time, but then they're sent home. So whether this is your midwives or doulas coming out to check on you if you're having a home birth, or you're going to a birthing center with your midwives, or even if you're giving birth in the hospital, you could be turned away if you are not at the point that you need to be at to stay and actually, you know, progress and give birth. So don't be disappointed, but definitely talk with your people, your provider, midwife, doula, whoever it may be that is your birth team. Talk with your birth team about what stage you need to be at, or how things need to be looking and progressing, so that you can avoid going in and then being disappointed and being sent home. So this was something that I made sure with my midwives, that I asked them, like, okay, where do I need to be at in order to be here and stay, so that I'm not sent home, for their time and for my time, and also just like for my own mental sake. So speak with your birth team and ask them what all needs to be happening, where you need to be at in order to stay and not be sent home. Now, of course, you can't always just completely prevent this, because it could still happen even if you are technically prepared, but just having that information is really helpful to help prevent it as much as possible. The next thing to know about labor before you give birth is to have a birth plan, and I actually created another video on this, so if you want to know more about how to write a birth plan or what to include in it, then I'll leave that link in the description box below. But it's so important to have a birth plan, and so many people walk into their births without a plan. And having a birth plan just allows you to take more control over your experience, so that it's the best possible, because this is literally a once in a lifetime experience with this baby. If you have multiple babies, then you get that experience multiple times. But with this particular baby, this is your time and this is your birth. So you want to plan it out the way that you want it, the same as you would a wedding or whatever else, a birthday party or something. You would want to plan it out the way that you want it to go. And so same with your birth. This is such a beautiful, sacred experience. So create a birth plan so that you have control over how things go. The next thing to know about labor before you give birth are natural pain management techniques. And this is relevant whether you plan to go unmedicated or medicated. For me, I am planning to go unmedicated, and that's also what I preach and love, is natural birth. But whether you go unmedicated or medicated, it's still important to know natural pain management techniques, because if you're going unmedicated, then Obviously, there's going to be no medication, so you're going to have to know ways that you can cope with the pain, having your mindset around pain set differently, understanding that the pain is progress and not, pain to harm you or to hurt you in any way. Knowing if there's certain positions that may help you, if it's massage that may help you, if it's movement that may help you, getting on your birth ball that may help you, whatever it is, sitting in the water that may help you on the unmedicated side. Now for the medicated side, yes, if you're going medicated at some point, you will get medication, but there's still going to be a period that you're experiencing contractions and some level of pain before you actually get your medication. And so knowing how you're going to manage that pain up until that point will be really important too, so that you can know how to manage it before you get your medication. The next thing is getting on the same page with your birth partner and letting them know how they can support you. So if this is your doula that is going to primarily be helping you, if your husband is going to primarily be helping you, or if both of them are going to be helping you, getting on the same page with them and just letting them know what they can do to support you during labor is really important, because you're going to be in labor land. So you don't want to have to just expect that they'll know what to do. Like if there's certain things that you want, like if you don't want them to touch you at all, if you don't want them to talk to you at all, let them know. If you do want them to give you positive words of affirmation or affirmations, if you want them to, massage you, if you want your husband to hold your hand or to kiss you or to let you know you're doing a great job, then have those conversations so that you can be on the same page, especially going into labor, so that your experience is great. The last thing to know about labor before you give birth is to trust your body. You were built for this. We as women were built literally for this. We were born to birth. So just trust your body. Your body knows what it's doing. You don't need to tell your body to push out your baby. You don't need to tell your baby to push itself out. Your baby knows what to do and your body knows what to do. And honestly, a big part of birth is controlling your mind. That's really what it comes down to. Controlling your mind, knowing how to move your body, get yourself comfortable, put yourself in certain positions to help support your body and your baby better. But you know what you're doing. Your body knows what you're doing. So trust that. So I hope all these things help you, especially for us first-time mamas going into labor. There